Welcome to this comprehensive tutorial on hierarchical clustering. I'm excited to take you through one of the most intuitive and powerful unsupervised learning techniques in machine learning. By the end of this video, you'll understand what hierarchical clustering is, how it works, and when to use it in your data science projects. In today's session, we'll cover 5 key areas. First, we'll understand what hierarchical clustering is and why it's different from other clustering methods. Second, we'll explore the 2 main types of hierarchical clustering. Third, we'll dive deep into how the algorithm actually works step by step. Fourth, we'll learn about different distance metrics and linkage methods. And finally, we'll discuss real-world applications and when to choose hierarchical clustering over other methods. Hierarchical clustering is an unsupervised machine learning technique that builds a hierarchy like clusters. Unlike methods like k-means, where you need to specify the number of clusters beforehand, hierarchical clustering creates a tree-like structure called a dendrogram that shows how clusters are formed at different levels. This gives you the flexibility to choose the optimal number of clusters after seeing the results. What makes hierarchical clustering special? First, it's deterministic. You'll get the same result every time you run it on the same data. Second, it doesn't require you to pre-specify the number of clusters. Third, it creates a complete hierarchy showing relationships between all data points. And fourth, the results are easily interpreted through the dendrogram visualization. There are 2 main approaches to hierarchical clustering. Agglomerative clustering starts with each data point as its own cluster and progressively merges the closest clusters until all points belong to one large cluster. This is the bottom-up approach and is more commonly used. Divisive clustering does the opposite. It starts with all points in one cluster and recursively splits them until each point is in its own cluster. This is the top-down approach. Let's walk through how agglomerative clustering works. Step 1. Start with each data point as its own individual cluster. Step 2. Calculate the distance between every pair of clusters. Step 3. Merge the 2 closest clusters into a single cluster. Step 4. Recalculate distances between the new cluster and all other clusters. Step 5. Repeat steps 2 through 5 until all points belong to one cluster or you reach your desired number of clusters. The foundation of hierarchical clustering is measuring distance between data points. The most common metric is Euclidean distance, the straight line distance between 2 points. Manhattan distance calculates the sum of absolute differences between coordinates. Cosine distance measures the angle between 2 vectors useful for high-dimensional data. The choice of distance metric can significantly impact your clustering results, so it's important to choose one that makes sense for your specific data type. Once you have individual point distances, you need to determine how to measure distance between clusters containing multiple points. Single linkage uses the minimum distance between any 2 points in different clusters. Complete linkage uses the maximum distance between any 2 points in different clusters. Average linkage takes the average of all pairwise distances between clusters. Word linkage minimizes the within-cluster sum of squares when merging clusters. Each method produces different cluster shapes and is suitable for different types of data. The dendrogram is the visual representation of hierarchical clustering results. The bottom shows individual data points, while the height of each branch indicates the distance at which clusters were merged. To determine the optimal number of clusters, you can cut the dendrogram at different heights. A horizontal cut at any level will give you a specific number of clusters. The longer the vertical lines, the more distinct the clusters are at that level. Choosing the right number of clusters involves analyzing the dendrogram structure. Look for long vertical lines that indicate significant distances between merges. These suggest natural cluster boundaries. You can also use the elbow method by plotting the within-cluster sum of squares against the number of clusters. Domain knowledge is crucial too. Sometimes the business context will dictate the most meaningful number of clusters for your specific application. Hierarchical clustering offers several key advantages. You don't need to specify the number of clusters in advance, giving you more flexibility in analysis. The dendrogram provides rich information about data structure and relationships. The algorithm is deterministic, so results are reproducible. It works well with any distance metric, making it versatile for different data types. And it can discover clusters of arbitrary shapes, not just spherical ones like k-means. However, hierarchical clustering does have limitations. It has high computational complexity, O of n cubed for the naive implementation, making it slow for large datasets. It's sensitive to noise and outliers, which can distort the entire hierarchy. The algorithm makes irreversible decisions, so early mistakes propagate through the entire process. It also struggles with clusters of very different sizes and densities. Hierarchical clustering finds applications across many domains. In biology, it's used for phylogenetic analysis to understand evolutionary relationships. In marketing, it helps segment customers based on purchasing behavior. In social network analysis, it identifies communities and groups. In image processing, it's used for image segmentation. And in finance, it helps group similar stocks or identify market regimes. Choose hierarchical clustering when you have a small to medium-sized dataset, typically under 10,000 points. It's ideal when you don't know the number of clusters beforehand and want to explore the data structure. Use it when interpretability is important, as the dendrogram tells a clear story about your data. It's also great for exploratory data analysis when you want to understand the natural groupings in your dataset. How does hierarchical clustering compare to other methods? Unlike k-means, you don't need to specify k in advance, but k-means is much faster for large datasets. Unlike DBS can, hierarchical clustering doesn't automatically handle noise, but it's more deterministic. Gaussian mixture models can handle overlapping clusters better, but hierarchical clustering is simpler to understand and implement. Here are some best practices for successful hierarchical clustering. Always standardize your features if they're on different scales. Experiment with different distance metrics and linkage methods to see what works best for your data. Use domain knowledge to validate your clustering results. Consider pre-processing steps like removing outliers or applying dimensionality reduction for high-dimensional data. And remember to visualize your results. The dendrogram is your friend. Watch out for these common mistakes. Don't forget to scale your features. Variables with larger ranges will dominate the distance calculations. Avoid using hierarchical clustering on very large datasets without considering computational constraints. Don't ignore outliers. They can severely distort your hierarchy. And remember that the choice of linkage method significantly impacts results, so don't just use the default without thinking about it. Let's recap what we've learned today. Hierarchical clustering builds a tree-like hierarchy of clusters without requiring you to specify the number of clusters up front. It comes in two flavors, agglomerative and divisive, with agglomerative being more common. The choice of distance metric and linkage methods significantly impact your results. The dendrogram visualization makes results highly interpretable. While it's computationally expensive for large datasets, it's excellent for exploratory analysis and when interpretability matters. To deepen your understanding, I recommend practicing with different datasets and experimenting with various distance metrics and linkage methods. Explore how pre-processing affects your results. Learn about more advanced topics like divisive clustering algorithms or hybrid approaches. Consider studying related topics like cluster validation metrics and ensemble clustering methods. Thank you for joining me in this deep dive into hierarchical clustering. I hope you now feel confident about when and how to use this powerful technique in your own projects. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more machine learning content. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or share your own experiences with hierarchical clustering. Until next time, keep learning and happy clustering.